within the last couple of weeks, it came out that for the new Star Wars Jedi Survivor game, they brought out several key pertinent information about what you can expect from the upcoming game, including mounts, traveling and traversal in the new realm, and 5 different fighting stances. Now they are borrowing the fighting stances. It's gonna be more so borrowed from like a Sucker Punch's Ghost of Tsushima, where you would have the dual blade, uh, and you would vary between the fighting stances, where you would have to learn which enemy is weak to what attack using what fighting stance in order to master the combat. Now, from what I've heard, the fighting stances are one where it's a pistol and a lightsaber, it's a dual blade lightsaber, it's 2 blades, 1 blade, a cross guard, which is the one that looks like an actual sword with the beams on the side, Kylo Ren's saber, and there is another one. Now, while that does sound interesting, I am a bit disappointed. I was actually going to make a video before I found out and I had to scrap it of one of the hopes I had for this game. And one of it was going to be saber combat. I'm currently playing Jedi Fallen Order, and they copied the From Software version of gameplay for that one. So I'm kind of miffed as to why it would copy Ghost of Tsushima. Now, as far as the 5 stances, I really feel like they could have went with something more based in Star Wars lore, in which I'm about to go over right now. Not to make me seem too much of a Star Wars nerd, but there's already in Star Wars. Well, there are 7 forms of combat, but it's essentially 5, and I'm going to briefly go down the 7 forms, and then I'll break down why I think they might have missed something special. So you have Form 1, which is Shicho. That is the form that every lightsaber user would learn picking up the blade. Everybody, that's basically starter form. It's pretty much extinct. That being a primary. Nobody really uses it as a primary. You have Form 2, which is Makashi, which is a form that specializes in saber combat, uh, strong parry, strong attacks. It is the form primarily used by Dooku. It is also used by most cross guard lightsaber users, such as a Kylo Ren. Um, they're specialized in duels and fighting, but their weaknesses they're kind of not the best at blocking blaster fire. Form 3, which is Soretsu, it is known for its defensive capabilities. It is specializes in blaster fire and reflecting blasters and parrying and blocking blaster attacks. Um, Obi-Wan was known to be, or is known to be, one of the primary people who've mastered it. And even lore-wise, he's been credited by Yoda as being an extremely difficult person to overcome in just saber to saber combat. So he's well versed in the defensive prowess of this form. You have Ataru, which both Yoda and Darth Sidious are masters of, where they're basically using the Force to enhance their fighting abilities. There a lot of jumps and kicks, flipping around to disorient you and end the fight quickly. Also specializes in one-to-one combat. Next, well, then we have what's it? Form 5, which is it's a combination form. Is Shien and Dim So. Shien, the early version is also again that one. They're both variations of Form 3, Soretsu, except for Dim So is a very aggressive, very more physical, stronger parries, quicker attacks, and it's kind of frowned on by the Jedi. But this is the form of Anakin's. This is Anakin's favorite form, right? We have Form 6, which is Nemon, which is basically you beat somebody. It's mastering beating people without dominating them. It's supposed to show a balance of the Force. Now, ironically, Darth Maul somehow uses a corrupted or perverted version of this to do exactly the opposite, which is dominate his opponents using it. And then there's Form 7, which is basically Juyo or Vopad, which was made exclusively for Samuel Jackson because it's Samuel Jackson. It is a broken form. Nobody else uses the form. There's no need to go over the form. But it basically, he uses his darkness, the dark side of the Force within him, to channel it into his fight. And he also can use other Sith Lord's darkness against them. Now, the funny part is if you look at it and you use this information and you watch the movies, you will see that this plays out in the movies and it reflects within the movies. But if you were to take out Form 1 and Form 7, you would have 5 forms, right? Let's take it down even more. You could really do this with 3 forms if we're talking about in-game. Every form doesn't need to be showcased, as there are several forms that are either basic like Form 1, or they're blends of several forms like Form 5, Shien and Dim So is a variation of Form 3. So you could have went more the form stance. You could have broken this up to like 3 or 4 paths. And this is just, follow me and hear what I'm saying. You could have broken it up to, let's say, Makasi, Ataru, and Soretsu. Each of them have distinct enough identities to where you could definitely do these 3. If they were to lean into an RPG, heavier into the RPG stat design, like a From Software where you have intelligence and you have strength and you have actually like Knights of the Old Republic, where you leveling up your constitution, stuff like that. You could have it to where it would create different play styles for these forms. You could have Ataru. The Ataru form would be like a hybrid. It'll be a hybrid of dexterity and intelligence. And you could build off of this. Have it to where you would have diversity playthroughs as to how you want to experience fighting in this game. You would cross guards, the specialty sabers, like a cross guard. Maybe you need certain amount of strength to do so, to really wield it, or even for like the dual blade and in the Old Republic. I do remember the dual. You need to have a certain amount of dexterity to do the dual blade, or even a certain amount of intellect to tap into Ataru. But you can have it to where like Makasi, since it specializes in fighting, it can have stronger but slower strikes. And that's what they have planned for the cross guard anyway, if you read into the details. They plan for it to have very stronger strikes to overpower. You could keep that, put that in Makashi where it has stronger strikes as a whole, and it saps the opponent's poise if they're blocking too much. But it's slower. So you got to be more methodical with your attacks, but you can overwhelm your opponents by staggering them with your blows if you know what you're doing. Or you could do a Soretsu or Soretsu, where you would have more of a poise. You would have a little bit longer counter window, maybe, but your single strikes are not that strong. You can have a Taru where you would have more access to the force or to use force while fighting in mid fight to either jump or dash, and you would have stronger parries. This is just off the top of my head. I feel like they could have came with a better fighting style or a combat system than the five forms, only because I am a person who I do love the Star Wars lore. Star Wars lore is some of the deepest lore that there is as far as uh like in depth. George Lucas was very in depth with the people and the styles and how it worked, how it caused the world to breathe. So while I have no problem with them copying with the Ghost of Tsushima style fighting style itself, I don't feel like it fits in a Star Wars game. Every blade user in Star Wars, their their blade, their style was a representation of who that person was. Whether it's Count Dooku with his elegant design lightsaber, which was a reflection of his regal kind of pompous personality and his stature in that society, or even Kylo's crossguard reflecting how reckless he was and also unstable he was in his nature. You can even look at Anakin's Dem Soul as to how he was reckless and unstable and how it played out and how he fights and would wear down his opponents with these relentless, unrelenting strikes and assaults and repulse. They were not just blades; they were extensions of themselves. And mastering that style was them mastering themselves and placing themselves in the best foot forward in combat. But mirroring the Ghost of Tsushima combat style, it whittles this down to me as just simply bringing the appropriate weapon to the fight, which I don't think that should ever be the case when it comes to lightsabers and Jedi's. I'm still looking forward to this game. I just think that this could have been carried out a different way and give a truly unique experience that I think a lot of Star Wars fans have been looking for. I do want to thank you for listening to this. I'm going to do more content like this where we take a deep dive into what's coming out and a deeper, more thought out. How should I say this? A deeper, more thought out plan of the content where we look in depth and talk about what we can look forward and see coming from it. And I do hope you like this type of this type of conversation. You can tell me by hitting the like or the unlike version. You don't like it, hit it. You like it, hit it. You want to leave a comment, leave a comment. But that lets me know what you guys like so I can fine tune this content more so for you to enjoy. I do thank you for taking this brief detour into a galaxy far, far away. This is Revos, and I'm out.